Thanks, everybody, and thanks for joining. So my name is Rick Kennedy. I've been on this lean journey now for 6 years. I was one of the original 4 individuals that launched Nialli 6 years ago, and continue today, and we're continuing to evolve. I'm fortunate to be joined with 3 individuals that I've had the pleasure of working with off and on over the last 6 years, and these folks have a tremendous amount of experience in lean construction practice, and so that's primarily what this session is about. And I'll get each one of them to introduce themselves, and I'll start with Paul. And just a bit of a story. Paul and PCL were an integral part of the start of our journey down lean. They were the ones that had the vision behind what we actually ultimately built. And so I'll start off with Paul.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Paul Frolick. I'm the Quality and Lean Manager in PCL's Toronto District Office. And I've been there for about 8 years. Before that, I came from manufacturing, where I had lots of lean roles with a few different companies. So I've been at the helping companies with their lean journey for a long time, but only for the last 8 years in construction, and it's been really interesting to get to learn what that's all about in construction. But in my role, I support our project teams in their understanding and application of our quality program, as well as lean methods and also technologies that can add value and help them with their projects.
Hi, Almas, Anjum, Director of Continuous Improvement at Aecon. Paul and I worked together at PCL for a few years, and before that, I worked for DuPont. So I've been in the industry for a long time. At Aecon, my role focused on, embedding, driving operational excellence by embedding new practices, and creating a culture of collaboration and learning and improving. A key part of that work includes implementing tools like the last planner system to improve, planning reliability and execution on our projects. At Aecon, we really transforming how our teams plan and deliver work. Integrating people, processes, and technology to drive, improvement and, innovation. As we look to the future of design and construction, I truly believe that building capability, fostering trust, and working together, as a team across disciplines, make a huge difference. So,
hello everyone, my name is Fady Gabriel. I'm Project Director at EBC. Currently, I'm leading the construction of EGM Rail Station, which is the light rail underground station under Montreal Airport, and with our partners Aecon. And this is where the project that we start implementing last planner and lean management processes. During my career, I have been focusing on large project, healthcare, high-rise building, and lately on transit projects. Always we have been delivering projects focusing on collaboration, bringing everyone together around the table, through lean management, through IPD contracts, all what we can do to successfully deliver the project on time and on budget.
So that's perfect. Thanks, guys. So now, I'll jump into some questions. So I'm just gonna ask a few questions, starting off with why lean construction? And I'll start with you, Paul, in terms of, can you describe lean and why PCL has decided to go down that journey?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I guess, has everyone heard of the term lean? Yeah, most people, right? I expect most people would have by now. And coming, like I said, from a manufacturing background, I was hired into the Toronto district because they were just starting to get into lean at that time 8 years ago and wanted some support and help. And what I didn't know at the time was that there is a lean construction institute that's been around for 30 years or so now, but a lot of people aren't aware of that fact. So I learned some things, like the last planner system, but so, you know, we had a continuous improvement program and have had for decades at PCL. But I guess as Lean started to come into construction and looking at, you know, what is this all about and the thinking behind it, the principles, methods, and tools that we can add to our toolkit to help us. And when I talk to our project leaders and our project teams about what is Lean, it's really actually quite simple, I think. And I try to convey it in a very simple way. It's not always simple to do, but it's really just about striving for smooth flow of information, smooth flow of materials and installation of work, and smooth flow of resources. And applying Lean principles, methods, and tools, that helps us build the project culture that we need of trust, collaboration, and continuous improvement that's necessary to achieve that smooth flow. And of course, when you have that, less variation, less waste, all we're trying to really do is deliver our projects on time, on budget for our clients, with less waste and stress and burnout for all involved, and Lean can help us get there.
Thanks, Paul. Fady, I have a question for you. What's been the impact that you've seen in terms of project performance?
Of course, when we started learning about Lean on the project, it was not a buzzword, it was more survival tool. The project, our context of our project, it's a very complex project. It's an underground station with a lot of electromechanical installation, with tracks, rails, signals, so it is a complex scope. There is a lot of interface. In the meantime, we have a very tight timeline to deliver, plus a very high expectation from the client. We are in an environment of airport with all the logistic challenges. So it was not the type of major project that I used to do to react like a fire brigade. We have to clearly plan very well what we are doing in proactive actions. So when we started to implementing Lean past last planner session, we had look ahead, everyone was seeing the same objective, targets. From phase planning to our last, the big room every week, all the subcontractors were engaged. And the good news that we engaged our client on board on this session too. So the client was present, the subcontractor trades, and also the engineers. So this is for us was a complete changing point. Subcontractors are not used to it. This is probably the first project in Quebec implementing last planner by the book, I can say, or Lean approaches. So we were very surprised by the engagement of the subs and the client side too, because there is a commitment from everyone. So we started the session last February. Till today, I can say we achieved percentage of completion of our planned activity, 85%. As per the industry, this is a very high percentage. Usually the industry for using last planner to achieve the planned activities around 70-75%. Of course, there was a lot of change in mindset that it took up sometimes different level of sub-trades, understanding there was a contractual challenge. But at the end, the team now is working with full spirit. We are together, it's our plan. So the engagement of subcontractor is not everyone. Yes, everyone is looking to his contract for sure. But at the same time, it becomes our project. There is no stress emails. There was no stress at the end of the day. We avoided a lot of emails. In major projects, there was some frustration too. So even frustration in coming, the big room is exposed. At the end, the big room is 1 hour and a half. We go through all the details. I was surprised that even after we finish, the trades stayed and they are talking to each other. So we created the environment, people to communicate the trades and they start organizing themselves far away from emails and the traditional way of communication. So it's going well to know.
So Almas, I'm just curious, I understand you're using the last planner system at Aecon. Maybe you could share a little bit more detail about what the last planner system is.
Well, Rick, Aecon, we take about an hour to explain what last planner system is. But yeah, so Fady alluded to the construction industry's average percentage plan completion sits around 54%, and that based on a number of projects. There were some studies back in the 90s, and then there was another study back in 2016 that confirmed. So in practical terms, what does this mean is the likelihood of activities planned for the next week being completed as promised is no better than flip of a coin. They might get done, they might not get done. So what last planner system, how does last planner system creates more reliability? It's a collaborative, team-based planning methodology designed to improve workflow reliability and overall project performance. Last planner system facilitates proactive constraint management and continuous improvement through a structured approach built around 5 connected conversations. So I don't know if anybody knows, the 5 connected conversations of the last planner system. It's like at the top, the milestone planning, the physical planning, the look-ahead planning, the weekly work planning, and learning and improving. So milestone planning, think of this as a 30,000-foot view of the project. The goal of the milestone planning is to align the team and establish key project milestones that we need to deliver over the life cycle of the project, right? The second conversation, the physical planning, think of this as 10,000-foot view of the project. If you're in the plane, when you're at the 10,000-foot height, you see a little bit more details, you see some structures, building, some roads. So in this conversation, the goal is we pick a milestone from either the master plan or from a project master schedule, invite all the stakeholders into the room, working backwards from the milestones, we map out all the activities that need to be delivered to satisfy that milestone, right? Identify key handoffs, establish a logical sequence of the work to deliver that milestone efficiently. These 2 conversations, the milestone planning, the physical conversation or the planning, they happen on as needed basis, every 3 months, 4 months. But the remaining 3 conversations are part of the weekly work planning meeting, and this is where rubber hits the road. The look-ahead planning, or what can happen by making work ready. This is where we identify activity. Think of this as a ground level view of the project. So we map out all the activities for the next 6 weeks. By planning 5 to 6 weeks in advance, teams can identify roadblocks far enough in advance to clear the way for reliable work in the upcoming week. Look-ahead planning allows teams to plan for the 6th week for the next 5 weeks, right? So that feeds into our next conversation or planning, which is a weekly work planning. So imagine if we have been planning for this 6th week for the past 5 weeks, we should have removed constraints or roadblocks, and we should be comfortable in making commitments such as that this will happen, right? And this is the week we use to measure our progress, performance, like production tracking. How well the planning is working on this job. The last conversation which is learning and improving. So let's say we had 20 activities planned for the last week. We completed 16 out of those. Our percent plan completion is 80%. Yay, way better than industry average of 54%. But the real value comes from understanding why those 40% activities were not completed. By assigning a various category for each of those activities, we can see trends in the labor shortage or slow design response times or weather delays, and we can use those insights for more informed planning into the future. The continuous improvement to me is a strategic driver. Like, it's not a one-time thing. It's a mindset, and that's what will make the difference in the future. Learning and improving. So, using these 5 different levels of planning, the projects that you utilize last semester. So Fady was saying 85%, and that's exactly where what we are seeing. The teams that use last semester system, all these different levels of planning, they sit between like 80 to 95% plan completion, right? So it's better, way better than the 54%, which is without all these planning levels. Did I
Perfect. Sure, thanks, that was less than an hour.
Yeah.
So, Fady, just out of curiosity, when you first rolled this out, what was the reaction you got from staff, from trades, from others who were involved?
Okay, well, at the beginning, when we started the first session, a lot of the trades, they didn't want to come. I was telling you the story. And basically all the trades came except two main trades. They didn't like to join the session. For them, it's 2 hours is too long. Just let us know what we need and we'll do it. So we insisted, so I sent Teams invite and we asked them to join online. Of course, it doesn't work like this. But then I wanted to show them how this is work, the dynamic in the session. So the good news after it, the next time they were all present in the big room. At the first, they all were very doubtful. I heard the session about, yes, this is a color sticky note that we keep moving every month. Yes, the sticky note that we put is useless. This is the first reaction I got. Myself, personally, it was my first project to go through these details, so I looked to Almas and I laughed, okay guys, let's start the journey together. And once they see they're being involved in the decision making, it's their project. As a main contractor, we are not imposing, yes, we have the main guideline for our milestones, and they start being engaged from the side. Their requirements are very well considered. We listen to their problems. The engineer is present in the room, so he need to reply the RFI, he need to approve the submittal. So everyone is a commitment in front of the client. So no way to skip with emails, excuses. So the engagement of the subs became more and more efficient, and now they are all present in the sessions, all of them. The most important part, we didn't enforce or push them to do it. We had to take it bite by bite, I can say it. There was some learning curve to get them engaged. Some of them, they said, yes, we used it on other project and it fails. Okay, let's try our project, maybe it will be different. Same people came to tell us, no, the other project we are not implementing the full process. This is why we understand now it's working here, it didn't work there. So at the end, what I can say is the subs, it takes them sometimes to feel it's their ownership. It is their commitment, and also from the client side, this is very important because all these sessions are based on milestones that we need to achieve. If the engineer is not committed, sometimes the client himself is not committed, it will not succeed. And last point, I would like to stress on this point. When we start working on this session, first they said we have our Gantt chart, P6 schedule. So what is the difference? Why you are making these dates different than the other dates? How you connect this? We are confused. It's not in our contract. This was another pushback that we survived. So we explained that during fixed planning, we are respecting the P6 milestones, and we are creating our own P6, 6 weeks to ahead planning. Basically, it's coming from P6. So there was a lot of learning to engage them and step away from contract obligation. It's more about commitment and cooperation between everyone.
Well, that's great. Appreciate that. No, that's you've highlighted a lot of key points in terms of what makes this process successful. But Almas, what makes this system different from CPM or critical path method? And less than an hour.
The main difference to me between last minute system and the conventional planning methods like CPM is how decisions are made and who makes them. Last minute system differs from the conventional methods such as CPM, both in philosophy and execution. CPM is typically a top-down approach where scheduler it makes a schedule based on the task durations and dependencies. I mean, while it's good to create that critical balance, but it does not involve the people who are actually be doing the work. So it's a top-down approach, not involving the frontline workers. And sometimes that can lead to unrealistic schedules and poor reliability. Last minute system, on the other hand, is a more collaborative, bottom-up approach involving all the frontline workers, them being part of the process, ensures they follow through. Having said that, the master schedule, we use the same P6 as you said. If you have contractual milestones, we take that milestone and bringing all the stakeholders in the room and make our own schedule. So if I'm an electrician, I know my work, but seeing my work, the grand scheme of things where how mechanical, sprinkler, other people, how my role comes into play, and what are some of those prerequisites. Me not doing my work, how would that impact? So it creates a group accountability. Everybody owns that. Coming out of that 3 to 4 hour session of a phase pool, that becomes our plan. Like all those 30 people, they own it. So they have their input into that. So that makes, to me, Rick, I think a big difference in terms of the CPM, made in isolation, not involving not having the input from the frontline people, but with the glass burner system, it does give you that option. So.
Yeah, I would concur. We've seen that a lot in my journey. I've seen a lot where, the schedule comes down from the master schedule comes down, and the folks on the ground are looking at that and saying, there's no way, and they're less polite from that. But anyway, so so we've seen that as well. Paul, I got a question for you, which is for those in the audience who are considering going down this lean journey, what tips, recommendations, what would you suggest any suggestions you have?
Get to know Almas.
Yeah.
But if you don't have an Almas, I do have one, and I've got some tips, and a lot of them are based on the place that the award ceremony is going to be tonight, the Limberlost place. So we had a really amazing superintendent there on that job, and this was the first job that I was trying to convince him to use the full loss planner system for a long time, and he was interested. He'd done pieces of it before, and it was finally his peers, which is usually the case in some of our other PCL districts, that said, "What do you mean you're not using the loss planner system? How can you run a job that size without it?" And he said, "Okay, I'm gonna give it a try, and I'm gonna do the full thing, all in for." Like I said, I'll try anything for a few months and see how it goes. So, they had me as a resource, but what they actually did, they used some of the other lean tools, although they didn't know the names of some of these things. But in lean construction, I discovered there's something that's been coined, it's called a study action team. I don't know if anyone's heard of that. It comes from lean construction, actually. But it's like a book club with a purpose. And so what that means is if you want to learn something new quickly as a team and gain insight to put something into action, you have a group of people review the same material and then get together and talk about it and share insights and then make a plan of action. That's basically what they did. In this case, it wasn't a book, although there are some good books. There's lots of free resources out there. This stuff's all public information, so even if you don't have an Almas or somebody like myself to coach you, you can look at the Lean Construction Institute website. The Lean Construction blog is a really great resource. The Lean Builder book, there's a really awesome book that teaches the loss planner system in a very simple way, and they have a great website as well. So anyway, they had some loss planner training videos. They took an afternoon, they watched all these videos, they made a plan of action, and then they started out. And the other key thing they did was Mike, as the senior superintendent, he started off, but then he turned it over to some of his other team members, and he would sit in the back of the room and just observe the sessions. And that's important. It's important to have an objective observer to give feedback. And they learned a lot and made a lot of little adjustments. They could see which trades were engaged and who wasn't. Are we asking the right questions? Are we getting the right information out? Things like that. And for instance, they flipped the sequence of their meetings, instead of covering safety and all those things first and then getting into the planning when everybody was already tired. They did the planning with the sticky notes first, and then they would do the other parts of the meeting, as an example. In some cases, they noticed that a couple of the trades, it was new to them, individuals are different too, their personalities. They had some people that weren't very confident or comfortable up front, and they would deal with those folks one-on-one for a while ahead of the meeting, and they'd bring them in and they'd walk through the plan together and talk about, what adjustments or things they needed to make. And eventually, as they gained confidence and got comfortable, they felt comfortable to participate fully in the group meetings, things like that. So that was another one. A third one would be Lean makes good use of simple visual information. So the last planner system in general is, as people probably are aware, we use colored sticky notes, different colors for different trades and different lanes by work area, and it's really easy to see who's doing what where. But other great visuals to have in the room, of course, are drawings. You can call them up on a big monitor, but even better is to have big plan drawings laminated that people can mark up and write on. And other things that we've seen that does involve some technology now that we all seem to have these progress photos from the various apps and things that are available now to easily get progress photos for the project. I've seen teams do that as well, where they have a big monitor in the room and together they can look at an area live, see what state it's at, etc., things like that. The constraint log, you mentioned about constraints and clearing roadblocks. That's another, it's part of the last planner system, but having it's something very simple. It can be a flip chart, it can be sticky notes on a whiteboard, but capturing those roadblocks and constraints that need to be cleared out of the way before future weeks' work can be made ready to go ahead. And having that in the same planning area as all the sticky notes in the plan. And maybe the last one, because I might be going on too long here, but another one you guys had mentioned, I think in your example on your project, I think I heard that you said the engineers were in the room, I think you said maybe even the client was in the room. You can't always get all those people, they're not always all willing to be in the room at the same time, but if they can, that's great. I know on the Liver Loss Place project, what they did was they would have their weekly trade coordination meeting and update the plan in the morning, the constraint log and the sticky notes and all that. And then in the afternoon, because that was a big team, they would have the project office staff, the PMs and project coordinators come in, and the field team would update them on the changes in the plan. They'd look at the constraints, make sure the right people had the right actions, and they'd update their P6 schedule based on that as well. So they'd have the scheduler there, so that can work too if people aren't ready to be in the room. Or sometimes the field team doesn't want them in the room because they just want it to be that field team. And but that's a good way to do it as well. Make sure everyone's on the same page.
I like your point. I can reply on this. At the beginning, we didn't have the client or the engineers in the big room. And then when they discovered the commitment is missing, because there was excuses about things not approved, things not decided. So yes, it was a challenge to bring the owner engineers, but we created a protocol of communication. So simply we told the client, if you have comments, take your notes, and we created this session just after the 1 hour and a half of big room, 30 minutes, we have a demonstration between us as a main contractor, the client, and the engineers. This was very important because sometimes, yes, at the beginning there was some confusion, direction were not according to our strategy as a main contractor. So there was, yes, it was a journey of enhancement. And the other thing that helped a lot too, that the client was very well understanding the need. So he told his consultant, his sub-consultant, if you are visiting there, take your notes to be discussed after. So, yes, it's a challenge.
But did that help in resolving some of those constraints?
It helps, and I have seen myself after the big room session, the client with all transparency telling his engineer, you need to reply to this problem, you need to, so I was very, usually client will take his engineers, it's a separate confidential discussion. What happened, we created this 30 minutes meeting, debrief, and this is where the client start asking his engineer in front of us, you need to reply to them, these all blockers need to be released by next week. So, yes, it done.
I have some experience with teams that have been using digital or analog sticky notes for last planning. That was fairly common. If you go back 10 years, that was all that was used. But today, there's some that are transitioning. But I'm curious to see your experience with transitioning from analog to digital. Is it useful to learn last planner using analog first? Which is the question. So what are lessons to take?
At Aecon, our rule of thumb is any team that have not used the last planner system in the past, we make them use the analog system, boards and stickers, because this is where we develop those key behaviors, that collaboration, that ownership of my commitments. So after 6 months, we tell them that this is your key to digital. You demonstrate the key last planner system behaviors, leave it to the spirit of it, then you can move to the digital. Now, digital also brings some benefits because you know what, with the analog version, how many boards you could have. So you start with one set of boards, but then you could have maybe another 1, 3, 4, 5. I worked with 7 sets of boards, but I mean, how far could you go? You run out of space. So with the digital, that it allows you that flexibility. When if you need to scale it, you can scale it. We're talking about the constraint block. Most of the digital tools, at least Nialli, I know, it has a built-in constraint block, right? So it's just all at one place. So it, to your question, Rick, yes, I would propose, recommend, use the analog, but then you can transition. That makes it more benefits.
So I thought.
One of the things that Almas mentioned, we started with analog for 6 months and then we shifted to digital. For us, the big use of digital was to tracking the whole decision. So this is our first use, because on digital we can go back a few months. This one was planned because we're shifting stickers. Yes, sometimes we take photos, but photos are not clear. Digital helped us to create a link. This I think our project succeeded to do it. We linked the digital Nialli system with our physics. So these are both talking together, like a great team, a project control team. They have done this link. So this was another big game changer because physics is speaking the same language as our big room sessions. And this is also make a difference. If we have only analog, we will not be able to make it.
So, Paul, I just, what benefits do you see in terms of the transition from analog to digital? What does that add to the mix?
Yeah, I think our experience is very similar to what Almas and Fady have mentioned there, that we usually as well start with analog with the sticky notes, and in some cases we like on the Liver Lost Place project I was mentioning earlier, they actually stuck with analog the whole time, but they very quickly started using Nialli as well to mirror what the trades were doing. They wanted to keep it simple for the trade foreman, and they were gauging that level of buy-in and that ease of just writing their notes on the stickies. But they did also find great value in mirroring it in the digital tool, because it can do a number of things for you. The history tracking is a big one. The automatic calculation of the metrics, the percent plan complete, the variance tracking, the leveraging Power BI to get even additional data that you can't easily get with an analog system, such as the percent plan complete by trade. Usually we just look at it for the whole project, but you could look at it by trade if you want, workers by area, workers by day, etc. There's lots of different things we can get by leveraging that data. Another big advantage, of course, is just being able to see the plan live anywhere. You don't have to go to the room and look at the boards. You can be out in the field and see what your plan is for that day or that week. People in the office can see the plan. The people not on site, the owner can see the plan. Like anybody can see it. So It adds a lot of value that way. Even if people do stick with the analog, we found a lot of value by having both. And in the cases where we've gone only digital, usually it is because either we've run out of space on a really big project where we have multiple sets of 6-week look-ahead boards and there's just not enough room anymore. So after the team is familiar with the process and the project is getting bigger and more complex, we may go fully digital. And then another place we found it very helpful is actually on our very, very small jobs, which we call special projects, but the very small jobs where you might just have a superintendent, maybe a field coordinator, like there's maybe only a couple of people running the job, and they might only have a handful of trades, they might not even have a meeting room. It's often, renovations, retrofits in existing spaces, and they don't have room for boards. And in some of those cases, I've seen them just huddle around the superintendent's laptop and collaboratively make the plan, but put it into Nialli so that everybody can see it, and then they can generate a really nice look-ahead schedule that's all color-coded and everything. The trades seem to love it, the clients love it, and everybody can, again, just access the plan from wherever. So those are kind of the situations where I've seen using just digital only for us.
So just one final question on the technology side. The importance of standing together versus collaborating remotely or even across on a table on laptop to laptop. How important is that, being able to stand together, having those conversations? Anyone?
I think it's very important. If I were to choose, I would definitely choose, standing in front of either the analog boards or the digital board, because this is where the collaboration happens. You can have those one-on-one conversations. We want people in the room for that duration to talk about the plan. It creates accountability. When you're talking to 30 people and sharing your plan, hey, you know what, I plan to be in this area on Monday and Tuesday, and then, on Wednesday my crew will move to the next area. I'm telling people that this is what I will do, right? And that's the true spirit of the weekly work planning meeting, right? So yeah, I mean there are a lot of software. I get bombarded with emails like every day, from different vendors. Not saying those softwares are good. It's really good, but they have all those extra bells and whistles. But what's really important is a software. You need to be very careful in selecting what you're choosing. A software that truly mimics the analog. So you're standing, you're moving your stickies. You can have that whiteboard space in a lot of softwares, but is it truly giving you that experience what you have with the analog version? So to me, I think that's really important.
So I'll ask one final question in relation to where are we going? What's next? Each of you gets one quick word about where the technology may go and how it can help.
Personally, I'm waiting to see how AI will impact the project planning, coming different type of projects. I believe lean management is a plus planner. I think it will progress in a more digital way, coming from the analog base as we discussed. There is a lot of using the digital environment. The most is important how it is friendly to use also, because people don't have time to be trained for hours and hours. So this was one of the keys of how we will use digital. So I'm expecting to have more tools to implement last planner or phase planning. Even we push to our engineers. We had a discussion to now last planner was mainly used for construction. Now we advise our engineers. They learn the sessions to use it in their design management too with the clients. So I hope we will have more progress on the inside with digital
Almas?
transformation.
I think we have come a long way. 10 years ago, when we used to use the last planner system, we didn't have many choices, but now, we have those. And I believe that, that is the future. Having said that, technology is, like, I don't see technology replacing the process. The process I want to stay the same because that's what creates the process. Technology is an enabler. And I mean, with the advancement that we have seen the last 10 years, I see, going even more further. Software has come a long way. We didn't have some of those functionality that we were asking back 10 years ago, but now we have that. And I think next step would be, maybe integrating with the P6, our plans. So I look forward to having that as well.
Paul?
Yeah, I think I probably echo Almas, what you're saying there, that, I think, I don't know if it's the Lean Construction Institute or for one of their papers or something, but they refer to projects as a network of commitments, which is what it is. You need people to plan together and commit together and hold each other accountable. And you can't do that by just having AI spit out a better plan. People will still say, well, that's not my plan, right? So AI, I think you're right, it can enable us by analyzing better, and as we get other technologies that are feeding AI with better and better information and better history of durations and various things, we can probably make better plans and manage risk better. But that's just all enabling those discussions for the people that have to come together and agree how their different pieces fit together and what I need from you in order to do my work and then what I need to hand off to somebody else for them to do their work. That part is still always going to be very human, I think. And technology should just facilitate the process to happen with better data and enable better decisions and maybe happen faster because you have all the information at your fingertips that you need to do that. But it's still better for people to be in the same space and talk it out. Maybe we'll have avatars if you can put on the headset if you can't gather everybody in the same space. That would be nice if you can interact as if you were in the same space. Because the one thing I was going to say is like during the pandemic and that when we had to do some whole planning sessions through like team sessions and that, it's not the same. It's okay, but it's not the same. And when people are all in the room, they're standing at the board and they're moving things around, you can have multiple conversations going on in parallel with people trying to work things out and work the board and you can see the whole board. You can't do that on a Teams call. Maybe eventually with the right technology you could do it remotely, but not yet.
So finally, are there any questions from the audience?
Sorry, I wanted to add something to both points. Using the technology that we are in, maybe from your discussion ahead, so we are using now the human part to identify the sequence of work. If we have a system-based system that can take all the digital, taking also all the what we plan every 6 weeks ahead, take it, compare it to our physics schedule, and sort some kind of analysis. So this is the one I would be looking for, because now we have a lot of human involved in this part, and this is a lot of work. Connecting the digital part with the physics and do some analysis. This will be a nice one.
Some questions? So we must have answered all the questions.
Or nobody was.
All right. Thanks very much, everyone.
Yeah.